Hey, this is Mark, and this is episode 24 of the Why Are We Still Doing This podcast. And in this episode, I'm joined by my wife, Kristen, and we're going to talk about why are we still pretending like COVID didn't happen. This was an incredibly difficult conversation for my wife, who lost her father to COVID-19 almost 5 years ago. But I felt the story of that particular time was incredibly important to tell because so many of us forget that people died alone then. A lot of those people that passed away during COVID were in an area of a hospital where no visitors could enter, even in their final moments. And something that my wife didn't get a chance to say on this recording, but asked if I could say it here, was that while her father was in the hospital for 2 weeks leading up to his death, the nurses that communicated with her during that time were nothing short of amazing, including one in particular who reached out to her following his passing. And this meant a lot to my wife, who is beyond grateful. So if that particular person is listening, just know that Kristen says, thank you again for everything that you did to make the last 2 weeks of her father's life the best that it could have been, given the absolute worst circumstances. One thing I'd like to point out about the audio in this recording, there may be times where it sounds like someone's massaging the microphone. I think that was when we were recording, my wife was holding the microphone and a few times let it rest on her shoulder. So apologies for anything with the audio. Anyway, and again, in this episode, we're going to talk about the little bit of good, the lots of bad, and the incredibly tragic of the early days of COVID-19. We reminisce about the amount of time we spent together as a family and how we'll never have that much time together again. Educators and families both trying to survive remote learning, having to parent both our children and our parents during the pandemic, the frustration with misinformation and conspiracy theories running amok on social media at the time, fostering a relationship with a family member due to the world slowing down, the selfishness and lack of empathy that was magnified from certain people, wiping down groceries, how COVID accelerated the demise of schools using paper and pencil, and above all, never getting to say goodbye to a parent who died alone, but ultimately received closure through an incredibly vivid and unexpected way. And again, this episode is dedicated to the memory of Tony DeMarco, who was my father-in-law. And if you'd like to write into the show, you can do so. Why are we still doing this podcast at gmail.com? Why are we still doing this podcast at gmail.com? So I hope you all enjoy this episode. And here is Kristen and I.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember how in demand recreational modes of transportation were in such high demand between kayaks, bikes, canoes, hoverboards? I don't even know. Everybody and their mother was looking for kayaks and bikes that year. It's like they had never seen them before and they were just introduced to the world. There's this thing called a bike. It has two wheels.
Nothing to do except outdoor recreation.
I know. And the amount. So we ended up we bought 3 kayaks. We bought that damn tandem kayak that weighed 4,000 pounds.
That was a great kayak.
It was great, but getting it on the top of the van was like we spent more time putting on top of the car than we did in it on the lake.
Because we're both short too.
Well, yeah, we'd go to the lake all the time. That was the most time we had ever spent on the lake with kids. We will never spend that amount of time with the kids on a lake ever again in our lives. And and it's, again, that's one of those things where, like, for a lot of people, the pandemic sucked, but for that summer, it was great for us. And eventually we got it up to where, like, you know, we were seeing our parents and whatnot. I think we were lucky in that our parents, they did a good job.
They did.
I think for the most part, because of their generation, a lot of people were like, well, I'm not doing that shit.
Right.
But my mom, my dad, I know your dad and your mom, they were pretty good about, like, following guidelines and just staying home
and wearing masks
and I remember just, you know, and you know, our parents are older and they like to go to Walmart multiple times a day, but they kind of reined it in, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know, I feel like I don't remember a ton about those early days. I remember right before it, maybe a couple weeks before we got that announcement, or a week or so before, I remember a student saying something to me like, do you think we're going to have to shut down too? And I was like, I feel like I had just started hearing about this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, like, that's never going to happen. We're fine. And this was also a student who was always very overdramatic. So I was like, they're just looking for something catastrophic, you know? And then maybe it wasn't even a week before, but then very soon after came, like, very quick information and announcements about being home for the next 2 weeks. And I feel like yours came the day before mine.
For school?
Yeah. Where they closed down.
I think so.
Or something like that. And I just remember it feeling like doomsday because nobody knew anything. And I think people in our age group or our sort of position at the time with young children were, there were just like multiple levels of panic because it was not just what happens with our jobs, what happens with us, but it was also, we have these young children that we need to make these life or death decisions for, or what we thought were life or death decisions because nobody knew anything. Mm-hmm. And so it was just all of these elements that I remember battling. Like, not only do we need to make changes, but also how does this affect our children, their social lives, their relationships with their grandparents, their friendships, you know, all of that. So I feel like I remember that more than anything spiraling through my head.
Yeah. And I've talked about this on the show where about people our age, we're having to parent up and down. We're having to parent our children, and we're also having to parent our parents in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We're having to parent our parents for falling for multiple scams multiple times a day, telling them what's real in the news, what's not.
Teach them how to use FaceTime.
Telling them to stop writing checks. Yeah, so it was kind of exhausting because I know for a lot of people, they were like, Mom, you don't have to leave the house. You don't need to go to Walmart, you know?
Yeah.
And at the same time, trying to coordinate childcare for the kids, you know, and normally they would send them to the grandparents, but they couldn't because they didn't want to risk getting either or sick, you know? Yeah.
The decisions that parents of young kids had to make at that point, I feel like nobody except people who were parents of young kids at that point really understand it, because it was, you know, it was not even the logistics, but it was then struggling with the emotions. Like, our kids were so confused, you know, everybody was confused, but then children who are just can't even wrap their minds around some of the stuff that adults are understanding. And we're missing people and we're scared or confused, or like, this is cool that we can't go to school, but also, why is it true that people can die if, like, they cough near you or whatever? And then, you know, so you'd have your kids' emotions, but then your own emotions, not knowing what was going on, and then your parents' emotions because they were sad that they couldn't see the grandkids. And it's like you had to kind of like triage, like, my kids' emotions are sort of more important, you know?
Yeah.
You're an adult, you can handle it. Like, it sucks, I get it. So I feel like a lot of those, like, boundaries had to be created too.
Yeah.
Which was really hard.
Yeah. And I could totally see some grandparents or parents or whatever family members, you know, who weren't maybe following guidelines and didn't believe in any of this and being like, oh, come on.
Right. A lot of judgment.
Putting that guilt on their kids. But I know, like, for like Jesse, in his family, I remember he was telling me about just surviving because, they were both working from home.
Yeah.
And their daughter was really, really young at the time. So trying to do your job while parenting I don't know, she was 2 years old maybe at the time, an age where you constantly have to be following them around so they don't walk off, a 20-foot ledge at all times. But just going back to when I was reading that article and them talking about how long we'll have to socially distance for, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I was like, I can't. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to be one of these, like, ultra conservative assholes who's like, oh, science. Nothing would enrage me more than misinformation around COVID, especially after your dad died, because people would say, like, oh, COVID wasn't that bad. It was just a cold. Or blatantly be like, it was a hoax. And I'm like, no, my father-in-law died from it.
Yeah, like it's on his death certificate.
Like the same, and those same people who would call it a hoax and just totally disregard science, those are the same people who would actually be like, yeah, this dude put 2 of every animal on Earth onto a giant boat. Like, that definitely happened. If you want to believe that, like, that's fine, but to have so much faith in that, yet to poo-poo all over science and question it 10 times the amount you would of religion, I just don't get it. And I have no respect for people who even today continually spout off like conspiracy theories about it, or were actively spreading conspiracy theories about it when it was going on, because I'm like, no, I had a family member who died from it.
Right. And like, and I think, again, like, you can believe what you want, get vaccinated or not, but don't then judge other people when you don't know their experiences or why they believe what they believe. I think it just goes back, to basic humanity again. Like, even if you don't believe in something, it doesn't mean that the people who do are any less than you. But in the case of COVID, when nobody knew anything, the only actual, like you were saying, the only factual information we have was that it could kill people. So the people who were willing to put people they do or don't know at risk, like, that was just so selfish. Because you don't care. Like, no, nobody knows 100% what's going to happen. But if there's a chance that you just wanting to do something just because you want to could kill somebody or land them in the hospital, like, why is what you want to do more valuable than somebody else's health?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the thing that would enrage me more than anything, was just the selfishness of people and the entitlement. Yeah. And
it was never because of a need. It was never a necessity. Like, if it was a necessity, fine. Like, your child needs formula. Sure, go to the store. That's a necessity. You need medication. You need this for your mental health. Like, fine.
I think the people that considered it a hoax or, didn't believe in it, it's one of those things, like, we couldn't obviously see we can't see a virus.
Right.
And it's the same people that maybe don't take smoking seriously, because you can't see the immediate impact on you. You can't see, like, the damage it's doing to your body until it's too late. I don't know if that's I feel like that's kind of a stretch, but it's just like it's not something tangible that you can see, Yeah.
So
when
like, it's not my problem.
When big government or whatever, whatever you feel comes out and says there's this virus, blah blah blah, or big science or big pharma, there's this virus. It's like, well, I don't see it. I don't believe, I don't believe it. I need to, and those kind of people, I feel like they need to tangibly see it to believe in it.
Or feel like they have to have the same political agenda as the person sharing the information in order to believe them.
Yeah. Do you remember, like, wiping down the groceries?
Yes. I was just talking to somebody about that the other day.
Wiping down the mail?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Again, we did these things in the beginning just because we didn't know.
We probably, those were the cleanest our groceries have ever been. There's probably, like, worse things that we killed on the milk cartons that we wiped down than maybe, I don't know, COVID. I don't know. But I do remember wiping down mail, wiping down groceries, and just going back to working in the school. I remember when we started school back up that fall, I was working obviously in a separate a substantially separate classroom, and so all the kids were wearing masks. They all had their like little area that they were in. It felt like a prison, and it was one of those things where obviously there was no guidebook for educating during a pandemic. I remember kids would take mask breaks at their desk. They'd be like, "Can I take a mask break?" And I'd say, "Sure." So they'd sit at their desk, take the mask off.
In the same space that it wasn't safe to be without a mask.
Yes. And then put them back on.
Yeah.
And then they would eat lunch at their desk by taking their mask off. And I know we were trying our best.
Right.
And I know that's where a lot of people, like, I can joke about these things, but still understand that we were just trying our best, and
we were doing what we could.
Because nobody had a clue.
Right, and it was just about minimizing it. We knew there was no way to prevent. I was home that year. I taught from home, but I remember hearing other people that were back in school and how like materials couldn't be shared, so like textbooks couldn't be shared. But most schools, like a high school where you have 100 students each day, you don't have 100 textbooks. You have a class set that every class uses. So I think that's where a lot of like digital textbooks started to really explode. But yeah, they couldn't share anything. I think even like paper. Like, like if they didn't have a pen or pencil, like, sorry, kid, you're not borrowing one.
I feel like that even if you go to like certain places now, there's still clean pens, dirty pens.
Yes, but then you take it out and put it right back into the same one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny. I forgot about that. And I don't know. Do you think at that point that's when the lack of handwritten things in school started? Because right now, like in my school, there's some handwritten stuff, but I feel like most of it is done on the computer, and kids' handwriting is atrocious these days.
Oh, handwriting is awful. I mean, we see it even in Ava. She never learned how to write in cursive. Not that everyone's writing in cursive, but that's an element of like paying attention to your handwriting. Wow. So I think like her age group, especially when she was, what was she, third grade? Yeah, third grade during that year that I was home remote. She was home remote too, not because we were like, oh, we're so scared, but it was just we knew that every time something came up, schedules would be changing, a school would be shut down, a classroom, a student would have to be staying home. So we just figured it would at least give a little more consistency. So I remember she was home and everything obviously then had to be on the computer. And it definitely had some impacts. And I do think that at that point, that was when it became the standard to have a one-to-one setup. Why are you smiling?
I was just thinking about, I was just thinking
it's
about,
like, what did I say?
Checking her computer one day. She was in her like room and she had a lesson up, but she also had YouTube on.
Yes. She will admit that she did that all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I think that was when it became the expectation that every student had a Chromebook in every school. And that was when it became more expected that everything is on Google Classroom and there's a digital copy of everything. And, it does definitely make things easier. It's easier than having a stack of papers to grade, but students communicate differently when it's typed versus handwritten. And I can't explain it, but there are many, many times in my class now, and especially this year, I've really kind of locked down on it, where I do a lot more of, we are not using any Chromebooks today. You are writing. I don't care if your sentences are sentences. Like, I don't care about any of that, but I want you to take the time to develop your ideas, because that is so different when it's handwritten as opposed to on an electronic device. But I do think that that was one of the moments that really shifted in so much in education, not even just the gaps in content and skills, but just the ability to focus. And, the human brain does, if you have a screen in front of you and you can either watch a video or read a nonfiction article, most human brains are going to be attracted more so to the shiny, moving, stimulating video or game, you know? So like our brains just function so differently. And I do think that COVID and having everything accessible online, so every student could have an individual copy of everything, did really shift a lot of things. Not all for bad and not all for good, but yeah.
I don't know if I don't know how kids are going to sign all those checks later in life, but you know, your grandmother had made that comment at one point. just thinking about like,
how
you know,
are they going to sign checks?
I just
Graham,
know
they don't write checks.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, we have checks and we use them for daycare and that's it, you know. But in by the time Ava's an adult, I mean, checks are going to kind of be. But I mean, you look at your grandmother's handwriting. Oh my God. It's incredibly
even our parents'
beautiful.
generation.
Oh yeah. I talked to people during that time who were teachers and they had lost tons of weight, got into like super shape, but the schools were like, I don't know what the are we doing?
Yeah, because you couldn't ask kids to do work that was new or covered like new standards, new skills, new content, because there wasn't equal access at that point. They hadn't given out Chromebooks to everybody or made hotspots available. So I think the requirement for me at that point was check your email twice a day and respond within 2 days.
Oh my God, to respond within 2 days.
Because they had no way of making sure that people even had access. So
that's like snail mail reply within 2 days. I remember in my classroom when we shut down, and this was the following year, we would shut down every now and again for a few days. And if kids weren't going to school, some of the kids that I worked with went to this daycare. It was like a daycare center, which was partially part of the youth center. And they would be on a Chromebook in a classroom with a ton of other kids who were on Chromebooks, and they were all doing something different. For one, this was incredibly challenging. For one, because I remember this kid that I would come and do work with, his speech was not good. Okay, so there's number one. The internet connection there was awful. So there's like 2 strikes. 3, he's in this room full of kids, and the adults in the room were not teachers. They were just meant there to sort of maintain order. So they could, if he had a question about something, it was very hard for them to help him. So there was like, it was just, I felt so awful. It was just, they were getting nothing out of it. You know?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that for us and our kids, it was a positive experience, but then there's so many times where you're reminded of so many other families that didn't have that for whatever reason, because their parents had to go to work, but the kids couldn't go to school, or, you know, I had so many students who were staying home and taking care of their siblings because the parents had to go to work. So they couldn't do that schoolwork, or, it's wild to think about how vastly different that was for people.
I'm kind of glad the kids were young when it happened, because we did do a lot of things with them. And I know Ava's older now, and you know, she's a lot more independent. But at the time, the kids were willing to kind of do whatever we wanted. We're like, oh, we're gonna go here. They're like, okay, you know. Just talking about how much time like we had together. I remember I feel like that was the last time that I can remember we had. I feel like that was the most amount of time we ever spent together, because it was the kids would go to bed and we would, you know, watch shows or whatever. We spent so much time together, and it's kind of funny because I know like one of my friends, he ended up getting divorced from his wife, and it was kind of like during COVID, and he's like, well, we realized we were home all the time and we couldn't stand each other. And I was like, luckily that was like the opposite for us, and that, you know, we got to spend a lot of time together. And I feel like a lot of teachers now are probably just sitting there going, man, I would kill for a pandemic right now. But some of the stuff that we did with the kids, I remember like eating in the car was like an adventure. And I remember we had a minivan at the time. And again, I'm glad the kids were young during that, because it was like, woohoo, picnic. And I have so many pictures of the kids and us like eating in the back of the van. Burger King, like froyo.
We drove all the way out to West Springfield.
Burritos.
One time to get food there.
Well, I think that was a time when we were doing drive-through experiences, and we did a drive-through experience at Six Flags New England.
Yeah.
And it was a drive-through light thing where you literally drive through the theme park. But like, I remember interviewing for jobs that spring of 2021, and it was much easier for me because they were all on Zoom. I didn't have to go in and, shake someone's hand with a sweaty palm.
Yeah.
And I could be comfortable. I remember being on a Zoom with I don't know how many other people, principals, superintendents, and whatnot. But also, speaking of Zoom, I remember how much time we spent with friends online,
it was great,
playing Jackbox games on the internet. It was so much fun.
I know. I wish we still did that. There's the same people that still live across the state or across the country.
I know. It was some of the most fun I've had in a long time. And
sometimes the kids would join, and sometimes they wouldn't.
They would. I remember, and I remember one of our friends saying, "Jesus Christ! It only took a pandemic for us to get together and do this."
And now we don't again.
I know.
Yeah.
And we don't do the kayaks as much or the bikes as much anymore. But I think part of that is just kids' schedules.
Right. We just don't have as much freedom.
Becoming more independent, getting older. But at the time, it was lovely. But again, I go back to us having that flexibility as educators as we were, and I feel horrible for some people who didn't have that, obviously flexibility. Right. But just talking about your dad, and when he had caught COVID, it was at the end of June?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when he called.
We were at the farmer's market. I remember. Or was that when he left a voicemail when he went up to the hospital?
That's when he left a voicemail. But I remember I think I was in the kitchen. You were in the kitchen, and I just heard him over the phone going, "I tested positive." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
And
because he actually was the most surprising for us because he was the most social, and he stayed away from people better than anybody. And it was the hardest for him because he lived alone and he was used to being so social.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I remember the thing about that was, it was so funny, whenever someone caught COVID, or I guess whenever anyone catches a virus these days, they're always so determined to try to track it down to the person that gave it to them. Like, I think I got it when I went to that movie the other night. I remember when he tested positive, he had said something about someone at the bar that he went to went down south for a get-together or something. They came back with COVID and gave it to other people at the bar, including your father. And in my irrational mind, I'm thinking that
if they did it on purpose.
If they did it on purpose, because it was so, I don't know, just because your dad was old and he was obviously compromised his immune system, and I'm like, it made me so mad but at the time, things were good. Things were good with COVID at that point. It was really starting to lull back. But as that summer went on, that's when it surged again. But just I don't know, we always try to pinpoint where this came from. And I remember just being so mad at this guy. I didn't even know his name. I didn't even know who he was.
Right. And he did nothing wrong.
Yeah. But I'm like, this.
Yeah. I mean, even not too long ago, I had COVID, and the first thing my mom asked me was, "Do you know where you got it from?" I said, "No, I work in a school, and everybody else in my house is in different schools." But that is, we as human beings don't like the unknown.
Must have picked something up somewhere. Yeah. It's when you go to the doctor and we bring the kids in. Yeah, we've seen a lot of this. Well, you are a doctor. They're not going to go. They're not going to go to Monroe Muffler Break and say we've got a sniffles. Yes.
You are the one they're going to go to.
Yes.
Yes.
But so anyway, I remember your dad, going in, and then I remember he called and he was really scared.
Yes, he was terrified.
And so he went in, and I remember he had gone to the hospital. He went to the ER, and then they were going to admit him. And I remember him going to the hospital. He was in Pittsfield, right? Because the hospital hadn't reopened yet.
Yeah.
So I remember him going in, but then I remember like 2 or 3 days had gone by, and you were like, "Well, we have to go get his car." And
Yeah.
was like, I'm not touching that
Yes,
thing.
because even though we had like started to like settle in with COVID,
yeah,
we were still wearing masks and wiping certain things down. Like if someone had COVID, they still you still avoided them.
the amount of PPE that you wore to pick
I
up his
think I
car.
layered three masks.
Yeah,
I had all the windows open.
You looked like you were removing asbestos from his car. You had so much stuff on. And I remember you bought, like, I don't know, 3 cans of Lysol. And I think you emptied the whole thing in the inside of the car. I remember
calling Emily, because she's a nurse and her husband's a doctor, and being like, is it safe for me to drive his car? Like, it's been this amount of days.
Safe to drive a car? Why are you calling a doctor? Call Monroe Muffler Brake. They'll tell you whether or not it's safe.
No, because he had COVID.
I know.
Oh.
Jesus Christ. So, but
and then that car sat in our driveway for the next
like
6 months.
But the thing was, I remember you sanitized the hell out of it, rolled down all the windows, drove back to the car with it. After some time in the hospital, and again, he was in there for like a month. But I remember at some point,
No, it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
It seemed like a month.
No, it was 2 weeks.
Okay. So after at some point, I remember, like, maybe after a few days, we went to his apartment, and we, because you wanted to clean up a little bit.
And just make sure, like, food and...
For whenever he was coming home as well. I remember we walked in there, and there were tissues all over the place. Like,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember there was a bucket that was, like, overflowing with tissues. We were like, ah! Like, we didn't want to go near it because it was like, COVID. But we cleaned up a little bit because he had just left, and, God, it was really 2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
So after, it was almost a couple of weeks, and I remember he ultimately had COVID pneumonia, which kind of sounds made up. I was like, okay, so there's a COVID pneumonia now? Like, I thought there was COVID and then, like, you had pneumonia, but then it was like, they apparently combined and made this super virus. I didn't know. But I remember it was a couple days before he eventually passed away, and that... Before that, you couldn't see him at all. No. You could not go into a room with him.
Once he tested positive, I never saw him in person again. Yeah.
I thought you saw him didn't you see him in the window?
So not like in the building, the nurse, I would say it might have been after a week. Maybe not. I'd have to look back. Because he was still up and moving around. He wasn't sedated or intubated at this point. They said that if I wanted to drive to Pittsfield, they told me sort of which side of the building his room was on. And it was this back, like service road that I went to. And then they told me which window to look up at. So I never went in and saw him. I saw him. He was up like 3 floors.
Did he see you?
Yes.
And waved?
Yes. So we waved Jesus from Christ. 3 floors away through a window.
So the protocol was you could not go into the room to see him.
You couldn't, there was a whole COVID unit, and you couldn't go in the unit.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yep. And even, Yep.
So I remember a couple days before he had passed, and we hadn't really gone anywhere. We were staying kind of near home because of this. And
we were afraid to go anywhere because there's so many places, like if you leave our immediate area, where service got spotty. So we were afraid that I wouldn't have service if the doctors needed to call me.
So I remember a couple days before, we were in North Adams, and the doctor called, and I remember him being like extremely positive about his condition. And I remember hearing him say, "Yeah, your dad's getting better." Like, I remember those exact words. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. So the long story short, I remember we went to Lake George the next day.
Yeah.
And
because we're like, he's improving.
He's improving. We can go away for a little bit. We went and did, like, we swam in the lake. We went to the arcade. We did the pizza by the lake. We did the arcades with the mini golf. So I think that was the worst part of it, is like he was getting better.
Yeah, that the day before he passed, they were ready to remove the tube and start reducing the sedation drugs. Yep.
They were starting to. But
Yep.
I remember, I think that's like the worst part of it because he had COVID, you could not see him. And I remember
that was the hardest part.
That was the worst part of it all, that you couldn't see him because he was isolated and in this COVID unit. And I remember when Colin and Kevin and Scott's dad passed, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years later, and they were there when he passed. Like all of them were around him when he passed. And I remember you were saying like how happy you were for them that they got to spend that with them, because it was like to not be there at all, you know, to only talk to them on the phone.
Right. And then once he was sedated, I couldn't even do that.
Yeah. And I remember, I've told you this, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was your dad. I had your dad's phone, and for some reason, I don't remember if you told me to take it, and I don't know, I was looking through like pictures, and there was one picture like he had screenshot, which honestly, God, I'm shocked that he knew how to do a
It might have been an accident.
a screenshot. But he had screenshotted. It was like a video call with you, where like you're on one side.
Oh yeah.
And just the way he looked was like awful. And that was the last like picture I'd seen of him. And I deleted it because I was like, I don't want you to see this, because it was you don't want to see him like that. But I think that's one thing that people don't get, was that probably so many people were not able to be around that person that died from COVID. The only goodbye was, or not even a goodbye, was just like, you know, I know, putting the phone up to his ear while he was
Scott and I were on
dying.
a 3-way call. Yep.
Yeah. And that's, I don't think a lot of people understand that. You know, they weren't allowed to have any close family or friends, and that's why when I see that happen in your situation, I see people again spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation about COVID, or coming out and saying it was a hoax. Like functioning people in our world, I get really, really heated. Right. You know, and I get heated for a lot of dumb stuff. But like stuff like that, I'm like, no, this is real. Like he died because of this. You know?
Right.
But
you know, it's obviously the only parent I've lost. I have nothing to compare it to, but it's a really shitty way to start. You know, I mean, he, like you said before, he was terrified. It was like his worst fear. Mm-hmm. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And to not get to be there with him in those last moments, you know, and I was given the choice to go to the hospital. But if I went to the hospital when he was having his last moments, I could have watched him through a window.
Oh, that would have been
so I was like, nope. No, you know, it'd be one thing if I could hold his hand, you know, and feel like I was there for him, but not to just watch him like through a fish tank. Yeah. That would do nothing for him or me.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't have some like waiver you could sign and be like, it, I don't care. I'm going to go in and see him. You know, like
I know.
Like I know that the hospital has to abide by these things, but it's like I wish there was something where it was like
put me in a bubble.
I take all risk. Literally put me in one of those balls that they shove people down a hill in and they roll down. Yeah. And I think he had much more patience than I ever would with a lot of things like puzzles. Yes. Oh my God. Like, what did he have? 500,000 piece puzzles? Yeah. And
I think we took like 30 or 40 of them out of his apartment. Yeah.
30 or 40?
That was all he did. He lived by himself. And so he would sit there doing puzzles all day, every day, and watching TV. Because what else could he do?
No, I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yep. I feel like the isolation piece. Yeah. I don't know. I if I lived alone, I'm surprised. Well, I could never see him as like a video game guy, because that would be my thing
No.
if I lived alone. It'd be video games. But for
that's not really his generation. Like he didn't know
no,
the difference between a
true.
blog, email, Facebook post, and a
Oh,
website.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, about how you'd be like, well, I opened Facebook to check my email. I'm like, no, you didn't.
No.
No, you didn't. That didn't happen.
No.
Or just the little Tonyisms. But
Yeah. I was gonna. Can I say something though?
No. What?
I'm gonna anyways. No, but just going back to talking about how like relationships shifted during COVID, during like the shutdown. I think it's funny that COVID is still a thing, but we call that period of when we all stayed home COVID. We just call it is COVID.
Like when is when what are the official dates
Like
for COVID?
like what are the dates?
For the United States, yeah.
Yeah.
But when did it? I mean, it's the severity of it ended. I don't know when.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't remember when.
Well, it was
but
in
I do.
it was in phases.
So that summer, I remember we were planning to go to Disney World, and we ended up having to cancel because your father passed. But I
Yeah.
remember like when we were going to go is right when it started to ramp up like really bad, especially
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah.
And I remember going to like an aquarium, like the four of us, and we went with like Abby's family, and we went to an aquarium, and we had to wear masks then.
Yeah.
And I remember I cannot wear a mask in a theme park when it's 97 degrees
Yeah.
like this. I don't know how people did it down in Florida.
Yeah.
We ended up not going, obviously. Do you remember where we went?
Mystic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Mystic for like, it was like 3 nights.
And then we found Tony's.
Tony
Yeah.
D's, yeah.
Tony D's,
Oh
this
my God.
Italian
If you're ever
restaurant in
in-
Mystic. Actually, is it in Mystic or
No,
the town over?
it's in New
New London. New London.
Tony D's. It's this restaurant. If you ever are in New London, we've never actually eaten in there, but
No.
we've gotten frozen.
They have like a little shop
they have
underneath.
so pasta sauce and pasta. It's out of this world.
Yeah,
So
it's to die
anyway,
for. And
yeah.
it's called Tony D's.
Yeah,
And
so-
we discovered it when we were on our makeup vacation after Tony D passed.
Yeah.
So,
Just thinking of the Tonyisms, they definitely live on because he passed 5 years ago, and he's still the most impersonated parent in this house.
the most impersonated person. Not even just a
because
parent.
He had all these little quirks about him where he was so confident in a lot of things that in reality he knew nothing of.
Is this where I get it from?
I think so.
Oh, it all
Yes.
makes sense.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So,
But I think the beauty of that, though, like as much as COVID, we've said this so many times already, as much as COVID sucked, I feel like, and as much as obviously losing my father because of it sucked, my relationship with him was the best ever in my entire life, was during those COVID months and years, because I don't even know. I don't even know. My childhood relationship with him was rocky. In my adult years, there was still a lot of like residual sort of frustration or anger or like, just worry that like my experience with him sort of not being like reliable would be the same thing my kids experienced as a grandparent. And I don't know what happened in that last year. But the amount of time we spent FaceTiming with him, I think we would even just like Facebook Messenger was the go-to. The kids would Facebook Messenger with him. We would put it on and just like watch a movie with him. He'd watch it at home. We'd watch it here. And then as soon as things started to open up, he was always a super social person, would always go to the local bars, was always volunteering, was at local clubs, the Steeplecats games, and that was always kind of like his comfort. And once things started opening up with COVID, he would go to those places, but his first stop was always, can I come see you guys? Even if it was only
Yeah.
staying outside. We had more dinners with him outside or dinners over Zoom with him.
Do you remember the Christmas that we did? We did that Christmas
the
over
virtual
Zoom,
Christmas
and
Eve.
His TV was so goddamn loud.
Yes.
I could hear every word of the NBC nightly news the guy was saying, and I think we were like, Tony, your TV's a little loud. Oh, let me turn it down. It's still
Not
loud.
any better.
It's still loud.
But yeah, we honestly, like, virtually or in person, I feel like we spent more time with him in that year. The kids got closer with him, and I just, like, I don't know. I don't think I saw a different side of him. I think a different side of him developed. It was almost like his priorities shifted. Like, our children were his number one priority, and he always loved them. He was a great grandfather, always, you know. It was never a lack of love. But they wholeheartedly 1000% were his priority, and they felt it and they knew it. And my relationship with him in that last year also, it just shifted, and I am so grateful that that is what the end of our relationship was. And I do think because of the world slowing down, that's why we were able to, like, foster that. And I do think it was kind of that reality check for him that, like, these people are what's most important, you know, and it made the loss that much harder, but also, like, I don't know, maybe just in movies. I don't know. I don't think I've ever really talked in person about any of this with anyone who's lost a parent, but you always hear about people, like, regretting not saying certain things or wishing they had said something or wishing they had showed somebody how they felt, you know, and I have absolutely zero of that with him. And that's, I think, the best feeling, you know, like, obviously I'd rather him still be here, but we ended in the best possible place for each of us. And
you guys went out on Father's Day.
Yeah, we spent Father's, which we had literally never done. Yeah. The two of us spent a day. I ditched you. I don't know why, but for some reason I was like, I just want to be with my dad today. And we drove up to Manchester, which we had never done. And it was the greatest day I had ever spent with him. It was nothing special. Like, we didn't do anything. We drove for an hour. We got lunch. We walked around. Like, we did nothing. But it was the most incredible day.
Well, if you're a fan,
and
of
that was just weeks before.
If you're a fan of the show, you know that in the last episode we had talked about, you know, how some of the best gifts are not tangible, and the best experiences are great. You know, and just like spending time together. And I remember you saying how that was like such a great day. And I also remember you talking a lot about how, toward the end of his life, you think that he realized he may have missed out on a lot of things with you, and he was trying to make up for that by spending a lot of time with the kids, which he, you know, they were his, you know, favorite. And so
it is weird though how, like, you know, like I was saying, like, I don't know why I felt so strongly that I needed to spend that Father's Day with him, because every other Father's Day since we've been together and since we've had kids, we've invited our parents over for Father's Day, Mother's Day, you know, kind of made it like a group thing with the kids. And for some reason, this Father's Day, I was very stubbornly and had very much had my mind set on, no, I just want to be with my dad. And I didn't know where that came from, you know? And afterwards, I'm like, did I know? Because it wasn't even a month later that I lost him, you know? And then that also reminds me that, do you remember that year? He would always leave voicemails. Not everybody leaves voicemails anymore, but he would always leave me voicemails. And for some reason, I stopped deleting his. A year before. Only his. And I would delete the rest of them, clear out my mailbox. Do people do that? I don't know, but I did. And for some reason, I saved his and only his. And that also is like one of the greatest gifts I gave myself without knowing. And I'm like, man, why why for that year did I save his voicemails?
Yeah, that's weird.
And why that one Father's Day did I feel so strongly that I had to spend it with him?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And I think you did something with your dad and the kids.
Probably my sister, yeah.
So it's not like you were sitting here by yourself. Like,
Hello?
you had plans.
Hello? Yeah.
But yeah, why do our brains just intuitively know these things? However,
Why are
it
we
is
still
also
thinking? Go ahead.
since then though, I get so in my head anytime I'm like, should I delete this voicemail? Should I keep this thing? What if this is a sign? What if me wanting to keep something related to somebody is a sign that, like, what if they're going to die?
Oh.
Yeah. Because I'm like, maybe my instinct is spot on.
Well,
I know.
yeah.
I know.
I thought you were saying like do you still have those emails on your phone or
The voicemails? Yeah, I
yeah.
downloaded them. I have them saved in my drive.
You saved them to your Facebook.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
saved them to your email on your Facebook.
I emailed them to myself on Facebook.
On
yes.
Facebook. I tell people a lot about that story where your dad got like his computer had a virus, and then just so happened, Trevor with
Yes.
a thick Indian accent had called him and said, "I'll fix your computer."
We're like,
and
oh,
then,
no.
And then you were like, "Yeah, this guy called and fixed my computer," and you were like, "No, please tell me you didn't give him your credit card information." It couldn't have worked out any better for that
I know.
scammer. Your dad's having a problem with his computer. Scammer calls him and said, this is Microsoft tech support. We've discovered a virus. And your dad must have been like, perfect timing.
Right? They knew.
They knew. So maybe your dad had some of that intuition as well. Maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know.
Maybe. It's genetic.
So do you want to talk about the dream? I know this is very hard. But
Sure.
I think it's incredible, though.
It is. So he died in July of 2021. I have my little notebook here where I wrote this down because I don't remember dreams like you do. So I wrote this down because it was so special to me. The next day I wrote it down. So fast forward 3 years. It's September. It's your mom's birthday. And just to give a little
yeah.
What?
I was thinking it's right after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because we went to that restaurant.
Yeah. So just to give a little bit of context, my dad would often sort of be adopted into like holidays and events and gatherings with your family, right? Like your family always does Christmas Eve, and man, for at least the last like 14 years, he always joined us for that.
That one random Thanksgiving where I blew my nose into a cloth napkin.
Yes, and we still all talk about it to this day. Yes. So he's always sort of done all these big things, all these holidays, events with your family, with us. So your mom had a big birthday and we did a dinner, a surprise. It was a surprise, right?
Oh, she had no idea.
A surprise dinner at Grazie. This was the old Grazie, the original one on Marshall Street by Mass Mocha. And he absolutely would have been at this dinner. Like, again, he just was always a part of those things. So he would have been there. And we had dinner. It was a great night. Went home, go to bed. And the next morning I wake up. I think I woke up crying, or like immediately like thought about the dream, jolted myself awake and started crying because I had the most realistic dream I've ever had in my life.
It was that same night that we went to dinner there?
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just.
No,
like,
I'm pretty sure it was the same night.
It was like right after, but I didn't know if it was the same night.
I think it was the same night.
Yeah.
I have the date written down so we can cross check.
Oh, okay, great.
At a later date.
I'll be sure to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So, what I wrote is that in my dream, I walked out of, we had the back room of this restaurant for all of us to have dinner. So I walked out of there into the main part where like the bar was, where you would enter. And this is in my dream, as I'm walking out there, I see my dad come around the corner and around the bar, and he joins us. And he just like, it was just so normal. Like he looked like he knew that we'd be there. and he was looking for me. This is going to make me cry. So
was he wearing a short sleeve windbreaker?
I don't know. So I didn't reread my notes until now, but now I'm like reading ahead as I say this. I don't remember what he was wearing. Holy cow. I'm glad I wrote this down. So he looked like he had aged about 3 years, which is crazy because he had been dead for 3 years at that point. And in my dream, it was like I knew he shouldn't be there. So I, like, even in my dream, I was surprised. He was limping a little bit and like kind of hunched over, like he had aged, which was strange because he, you know, he was in his 70s, so when he stood up he'd limp a little bit, but once he adjusted, and he didn't hunch.
Because I was saying when he had aged, I don't know if I could tell the difference between a 76-year-old and a 79-year-old.
I wrote down
like
3
facial
years.
features or like
I don't know.
So when you say hunched over, that's a definite sign of aging.
Yes.
But like I don't think he was losing any more hair.
I don't know. I wrote down 3 years. Don't know why, but I did.
That's so weirdly specific.
I know. Like, did he tell me did he announce his age? I don't know.
Everyone,
We're celebrating Cheryl, but just so you know.
he's just crashing her party.
But he was slightly hunched over. Like he could have used a cane, but didn't have one, which seemed fitting. Oh, this is going to make me cry. And he said to me, "Hi, sweetheart." And that's what he always said to me. This is a total different turn from all of your other podcasts.
It kind of reminds me of when I had the conversation with Kevin and Colin about their dad passing, and how the night that their dad passed, Kevin had a dream that like something about him taking on a journey through the cosmos or something, and how important it was for all of them to know that like he came into one of their dreams. And maybe it was because Kevin was the oldest, you know, his firstborn. I don't know if that made any sense. It was good to experience that. And I talked on that episode about my grandparents, you know, coming, all the really vivid dreams I had of them, where I was like in their house talking to them. And I remember looking at my grandfather and being like, "I miss you all." And I looked at my grandfather and was like, "I miss, and especially you." Because it was like he had passed when I was like 11, and it was just a really weird age to lose someone, you know. And but the dreams were so real, like walking in their house, opening the door, talking to them, and then leaving. Or the dream where I'm in my grandfather or my great uncle's Monte Carlo. I said El Camino in the podcast, but it's a Monte Carlo, and just like you can feel the sunlight coming in from the windshield, the crackly AM radio. The chairs were just so plush. It was like sitting in your living room. So realistic. But to have that kind of dream is like 1 part amazing, 2 parts crushing. You know, it's like, oh my God. Because you never know if you're going to have it again. Because I used to have dreams about my grandparents all the time. But it's been years and years since I've had it.
Yeah.
And maybe by talking about it now, maybe it'll happen soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
But why was I having those dreams? I don't know. And why did he come to you that night?
3 years later.
3 years later?
Yeah.
It doesn't line up with any specific date.
No, it wasn't even like it.
Did you ever eat at Grazie with your dad? Probably. Maybe.
I don't know.
Because I
know he would go there a lot.
You guys would go to like Freight Yard or...
Yeah, I don't know if we ever went there together.
Really? I mean, we go there all the... Are you on? Is your mic on?
Yeah.
And then after that... And then after that, he turned into an ape. No, I'm kidding.
No, he turned into Papa Smurf. Just kidding.
Well, sometimes, because again, like because sometimes those dreams all of a sudden, like, oh, here's a river of Jello that comes in the room.
That was the craziest part. Was the whole thing felt so real.
Yeah.
And even real in the sense that...
Was he wearing a hat, a Red Sox hat?
I don't remember. I don't know. All I remember is seeing how he moved, and he hugged me, and I could, like, feel it. Like, it wasn't just, like, visual. Like, I could feel it, and it was the longest hug. He said nothing else in the dream except, hi, sweetheart. And then I just told him about the kids, like, updated him on everything he had missed. So in the dream, he knew that he had missed those 3 years. And it wasn't like he had just disappeared. Like there was a clear understanding. And it was crazy. We never left that room. We stood right there. We were surrounded by other people, but like nobody else existed. It was just us. We never went into the party. Like in my dream, the party was still happening, the dinner for your mom, but we never went in. And what really made me break down just now, and why Mark so lovingly took over with a different story because he saw I was not able to keep talking, was I read the note that I wrote at the ending, which goes back to what we were saying before. Was it felt like I finally got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And then,
what does that say? I can't read that. Please visit me again. Oh, jeez. Well, that's what we hope. It's like with my grandparents. Like I haven't had them come visit me in a long, long time. But when you wake up, you're like, oh. You know?
I was devastated.
Yeah.
The next day was such a hard day.
Yeah.
And like it was so good, but the emotions were so heavy. And now it's what? 2 years. When was that?
Shoot.
2 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm still a blubbering mess recalling this, but I'm so glad I wrote it down.
Yeah. Do you think he had an order of spaghetti to go?
Probably. A half order.
He was just go to the hot dog ranch.
Hot dog ranch.
And get an order of
which,
spaghetti.
funny enough, is the new Grazie.
Oh my God. That is, holy crap. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can see if they can put that on the menu, the Tony.
Half order spaghetti.
Would he eat the spaghetti at the hot dog ranch or get it to go, do you think?
No, he would eat it there. He wasn't a to-go guy most of the time because he liked to sit at the bar and see who would come in that he knew.
So, I'm just still
social for
baffled
him.
that they had spaghetti at the hot dog ranch. Well, we should probably wrap this up. Well, thanks for coming on.
Glad I could meet you here.
Yeah, let's do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Or not, I don't know.
Are you going to make me cry again?
Talk about something else next time.